Are you at your point where you think you've hit your bottom, or maybe that there's just no way you're ever going to feel like things can change? I was like that. I really was. And I want you to know, my name is Bromo, by the way. I want you to know that there is a way out. Please join us for my podcasts. Hey, what is going on? My name is Bromo. This is There Is a Way Out. It is the 23rd of January. We here in Bismarck have a little fog going on, which is really not the norm. If it gets a little drizzly and we have snow on the ground, it makes it dangerous. So that's never good for us out here, of course. For all of my friends in San Diego, I'm sure it's something like 60 degrees. No, usually in San Diego, if it rains for more than 2 or 3 days, that's the weather, the lead story in the news. Lived in San Diego most of my life. I've now been out here in North Dakota for almost 10. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is 2/17/09, and yes, my 15-year sobriety birthday's coming up. And I've said before, for me, that's my favorite day, without a doubt. Should I get there, we always have to say. Should I get there, it's my favorite day of the year. Way more than my natural birthday. Good grief, I wish they'd postpone that. But now, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any certificates or anything like that. I don't see myself as any kind of expert at all. I just am trying to deliver strength, hope, and some experience. For those of you who may feel you may either drink too much, you may want to, you can go online on nowadays you can look up anything, but online you can go on Google and you can actually probably find a test. I mean, you can for sure. Give yourself a 10-question, 15-question test on whether you drink too much. Do you drink by yourself? Which I've never found to be that accurate. A lot of people drink by themselves when they're watching a game or whatever. Do you drink in the morning? Do you think about drinking all day long? This is just some random questions now. I can't tell you if it's on that quiz or not. Do you drink every day? Is drinking becoming a problem in your social life or your work life and such? So look it up if you want. I offer this podcast, again, for anybody who feels they might want to listen to it. Maybe they have a friend or a family member who they think is starting to become deep into alcoholism or any kind of addiction. They can listen to this as well. With my hope is one person can get something out of this and maybe pass it on to someone else. I left you last episode. I think this is my 7th one already. My last episode, I was living in Mission Beach with one roommate now. And, of course, I was still doing the radio thing, and things were never better as far as popularity-wise. I told you before, I love the fact that I was such a nobody in high school, such a nobody growing up. And, I'll admit, when I became more well-known on this show, it was probably 99% of my life. That's what an ex-girlfriend once told me. She said, that's all you talk about is the show. And she was right, because I loved it. Yeah, the parts about running around naked and wearing thongs and paying off golf bets on the air, that was entertainment. Sure it was, but it was also very embarrassing. And for many who have approached me in the nowadays or whenever, and they say, come on, tell me the truth. Is that why you're an alcoholic? Because of the things you had to do on the show? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'll talk about that later on. With you, if you hang with me, my story will be done soon, I promise you. And then I believe the strength of this podcast is, I know for sure, is when I can get others to come on with me and we can talk about our lives and they can share. And they can share and they can let it out willingly. And it's good therapy for everybody. Like I said, anybody who's been either 20 minutes sober or 25 years sober can learn from each other. That's what they tell you when you go to meetings. And that was one of the things that I'll touch on later, going to meetings and starting out and not being one of my favorite things, of course. So I'm still drinking, and I'm drinking the same pattern a lot. I'm drinking every night, the 6-pack at least, the 3 vodka club martinis, or even maybe get a full bottle of straight vodka. I knew that things were getting really bad when I'd be on vacation. And I would hit it right away all day long, like I said last podcast, from the morning I got up all the way through at night with hardly any food in my system and no water. And I told you last episode I was rushed to the hospital with a major nosebleed, and they had told me then, yeah, you are severely dehydrated. They get me all hydrated, and they get me ready to go, and I get released from the hospital that night. And sure enough, I came back, and about 5 minutes later, long enough for me to put my keys down and such, I walked over to the liquor store and bought some more booze. I wanted to keep that circle going, man. That was not going to stop me. What was going to stop me was when I was seeing that the shakes were becoming more severe, and my mind now was telling myself, dude, you can't get rid of these shakes. Yeah, the only time the shakes leave you, and you know this, is when you put alcohol in your system. I knew I had a problem now, and I knew also that I couldn't quit. I couldn't there's no way I could. I mean, I could try, but I'd be fooling myself. I remember one of the Thanksgivings that we would have. You know, my mom lived across town, and during Thanksgiving, she would expect me over, and I had a chance to go, and I'd call in, and I'd tell her that I had the flu. I didn't have the flu. One, I was too lazy to drive 20 miles across town and give up 3 or 4 hours of being with my family in Thanksgiving. I just wanted to stay home, play video games, and drink more. And as I realized that I needed help, I went into work one day, and the shakes were so bad, I confided into a coworker. I pulled her off to the side, and I said, I think I need help. And she goes, I think you do too. And it was right before I was going to pay off a naked run around the building. Now, we didn't just have a building that was small or anything like that, like this building I'm in right now. Of course, we are on the 12th floor elevator, still busted here in Mandan. This was a large building that had 10 radio stations in it. And the whole perimeter of the parking lot around the building was huge. And one of the golf bets I had lost, of course, was to run around this building from the front door all the way around into the back of the building, back to the front on the other side. That's where I would end up. And I was so weak and so ravished full of these shakes. I remember thinking, God, I wish I could just be normal. I looked around at all the people that were there sipping coffee. So you see, when I had to pay a golf bet, that was announced on the air, people would show up. You wouldn't believe they were fans of the show, and I don't blame them. And they would listen to the golf bet on the air while I'm doing it. And that was entertaining. But, man, if you hear about a guy who's going to run around the building naked, why would you bring your 4-year-old kid out? And that's what happened. A lot of people came with their cameras and all that stuff. But before I made that golf bet payoff, I had confided in a coworker. And I said, I think I need some help. And she said, I think you do too. And before I did the golf bet payoff, I called my mom up on the phone. And I told my mom, I'm in trouble. I've got the major shakes. They're not going away. I can't stop drinking. I feel like I'm going to get a stroke anytime I come to work. And I told her what my goal was. And we had looked to see what my options were. So I went out and I paid off the golf bet and then came back in and pulled aside a couple of people that I work with, my best friend being one of them and one of the managers. And I said, I need help. And so they did some work and they said, well, we're going to take care of this for you. And so they arranged a place where I would go to detox. It was in La Mesa. Scared to death now. I knew this was something that I could not put off. I could not procrastinate this because I already. And here's the weird thing. I wasn't glad that I made these announcements to the coworker and to my boss and everybody, because once I said I need help, I was telling people, yeah, I need help. I don't want to drink anymore. But way deep down, I was scared about giving up drinking. It was a big part of my life. And I was I knew back then that, am I going to be able to do this? Because I don't want to give it up. My counselor used to call drinking as your girlfriend. Well, this girlfriend, I didn't want to lose. I did not want to lose this part of my life. But now I made the announcement. They were making plans. They found a place for me. I showed up with my mom. Ironically, this place was literally about a mile down the street from my mom's house. She showed up with me. I had a little bag packed, signed some papers, and I went into detox. And for those of you that have been in one of these little programs before, I was in there for 3 days. And, of course, they gave me some medicine to help me sleep, and they did this and did that. I'm not a smoker. I'm not. I smoke cigars. But when I was on detox, and we had our little breaks where we could go outside in this back of this fenced-in area or so, I was smoking these tiny little, thin, little, goofy little cigarettes, not inhaling or anything, just something to do. And I'm out there with a roommate, and I go through detox, and I'm scared to death. And I'm trying to remember what they had us do in the daytime. Probably read some books and stuff. I don't believe that they had us try to work the steps at all. We were detoxing. A lot of people in detox when you're older or whenever, if your disease is so strong and your drinking has been so awful, you can die in detox quite easily. But I went through it. I was released with some paperwork. And then I was set up as part of the whole recovery part. I was set up with mistake number one. I agreed to go to an outpatient program, which was right there at that detox center, ironically. It was an outpatient program where I would go to classes. My classes were like Monday, Wednesday, Friday from like 6 to 9 at night. Mistake number two, when I'm taking these outpatient, this outpatient program, I would go home to where I drank. I would go right back to my bed, my area, my neighborhood. See what I'm saying? The outpatient thing, and I'm not going to ridicule it. It probably does work for some people. But man, not when you're such a strong alcoholic like myself and you've been drinking now for years, 3 or 4, 5 solid years of vodka and beer and such. And you're in such a routine and your body has been used to it. Your body's craving it. So I've got this outpatient thing that I have to go to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's a class. And we're all huddled around and there's like 8 or 9 of us. And we're all telling our story and the counselor's talking to us about the evils of drinking or addiction or things like that. And of course, I believe that it was a 4-week program. Okay. Mistake number 3. I understand and I fool myself that during this outpatient program thing, in replacement of drinking, why don't I try drinking non-alcoholic beer? You know, I like beer. And maybe non-alcoholic beer will kind of like get me through the whole thing, right? I'll get that taste for the beer. Let's just quit fooling myself. It wasn't the taste for the beer. I wanted the alcohol. You know, beer is beer. Non-alcoholic beer, by the way, I believe, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, does it have like a minor little bit of alcohol in it, or is it all, if it's all 0.000, whatever, it still messes up with your mind. Of course, I was drinking the non-alcoholic beer to fill my void for the booze that I wasn't pouring in my system, but it wasn't working because after a while, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm drinking this non-alcoholic beer and it's just not doing it. You know, let me see if I can try. Yeah, let's do this. Let me see if I can try to reward myself for the classes and everything, to have one beer when I come home that night from my outpatient class. Because I know that if they are going to give me the P test on Friday, well, I got a day and a half or so to drink one beer. Excellent. Reward myself. See how that works. Yeah. Well, so I did that. And right after that one beer, and I'm into my 3rd week of the outpatient program, I'm now drinking 3 beers. And then I'm going in there. And maybe once in a while they give me the P test, and I'm, perfectly fine. We graduate from this outpatient program. And right before I graduated, I thought to myself, you know what? Let's go watch some football. I can go to that Saska's bar. I'll sit in my seat, and I'll have a non-alcoholic Bloody Mary. And I'll get to have my breakfast, and everything will be like normal, right? Right. Well, not right. When I came back to class and I told my counselor, hey, everybody, what'd you guys do this weekend? When I started telling her and the whole class what I did on that Sunday, where I went to my favorite bar and had a non-alcoholic Bloody Mary, and I was very proud of myself, by the way, you should have seen her face drop down to the ground. She said, what the hell? And I go, what do you mean, what the hell? Wrong. And now I felt, when the back of your neck gets all red, I felt like I was on the spot. I was on the spot. All the other people that were part of my little group, not the counselors, but the other people, they were kind of just going, yeah, what's going on? Why? Wonder why she's so avid. Oh, I'll tell you why. You're fooling yourself when you go to a place where you did all that drinking, all that fun, all that alcohol, and you went right back to that same spot and that same seat. Now, this is when I learned about triggers. Talk about your trigger. First of all, let's rewind a little bit. When I took this detox, I never should have gone back to my house. My house was a trigger. But what am I going to do? I didn't have the money to move right away. And So I graduate from this outpatient plan program, and I'm gone 5 weeks from the show. And I'm all set to come back. But I'm fooling everybody. And I'm even trying to fool my roommate. I'm fooling everybody because I'm right back where I was before when I went into detox. That's right. After that outpatient plan, from those 3 beers I was trying to tell you about, from those 3 beers I was telling you about, let's put it that way, that I was rewarding myself, had progressed to 5. When I got out of the outpatient program, I didn't have to fool anybody by taking a P test. So I went right back to my 6-pack and 3 martinis. I was right back in my hellhole. And I was doing that, and I came back to work like some conquering hero. And the traffic reporter, I told you, the alcoholic, and she pulls me aside and she said, how do you feel? I said, well, I feel fantastic. Look at me. Man, I'm so glad. I've recovered. I've recovered. I'm drinking these stupid energy drinks. I'm taking care of myself, and I'm lying through my teeth right to her face because I hadn't had the shakes come back yet, but they will. And I was lying to her, and I was lying to everybody. And I had again, kept my routine up where I would go and get all my booze into my cooler, sneak that cooler up into my room when I got home, barricade myself in my room. And, my roommate was awesome. She could tell if I had 3 or 4 beers when I'm coming out of my room to use the bathroom. She's not stupid. She could either see my face or she could smell it. She didn't say anything for a while. My sister comes into town with her kids, and we go out to pizza. And my sister's asking me how my recovery's going, and I'm lying through my teeth and saying I've never felt better. I'm so sorry for all the times I've missed Thanksgiving, such and such and such. But on the way over there to the pizza place, my roommate says to me, look, dude, you don't need to hide. I know you've been drinking. So what do you mean? And she goes, dude, I'm not dumb. You don't need to lie to me. So for some saving grace, that was great because now I was free of the lying part, only in my house. So she goes on another trip. I had vacation coming. I was back to work, I had the paperwork that said I was okay to come back to work. I worked for quite a bit. I had vacation coming. I had just probably reached, in quotes, I probably reached 3 months sobriety, which was bull. But that's what I was telling everybody. I was masking myself so much with underarm deodorant. I would place that stick all over my body so nobody could smell it. I'd take a bunch of mouthwash and gargle that before I went into any room so the traffic gal didn't smell it. Thought pretty much I had her fooled because I didn't really see her that much. And after that 3-month period of coming back to work and such, I had a week vacation. My roommate went out of town, and I went full bore at it. Like I had done before, that when the paramedics came, I went full bore at it. So much so that, again, she found me on the steps of the front door steps inside the house, collapsed. Here come the paramedics again. Paramedics come. They pick me up. I get out of there. And now I've had to tell everybody I relapsed. And when I relapsed, I made a phone call back to the detox place. I was heading back to detox for the second time, the same place. Here is where it gets scary. I go into detox and I know what I'm facing, but I had so much alcohol in my system. I'll never forget this. I had so much alcohol in my system that the first night that I was in detox, I started seeing things. I started seeing what looked like big, huge spiders crawling over the wall, crawling on the side of the wall, going up on the ceiling, big black ones hovering over my head. I remember starting to panic a little bit. I looked out these shaded windows that you couldn't see. You could see kind of out through them, and I saw men wearing helmets, and I saw groups of men talking, and I saw some men with helmets looking inside right to my eyeballs through the glass. I went over to the wall, and I could hear people saying, hey, they had guns, right? Hey, we need to start clearing this place. I started freaking out. I started freaking out so much that I ran out in the hallway. Next thing I know, there's 5 or 6 people all dressed in hospital gear, and they're trying to yell at me, and they're trying to calm me down. And I'm thinking that we're being attacked. I'm thinking we're being invaded, and we've got people all around that have got guns. They have me now, and they put me in a blanket, and they pick up the blanket, and I'm on my back on this blanket, and people are yelling at me, relax, calm down. Now, I was told that reaction was probably from the drugs that they were giving me. And I don't even know. I can't tell you medically what the drugs were they gave me when I went into detox that first night. But let me tell you later, that same counselor who had stopped by to see me in detox because she heard what happened, she told me I was on the verge of wet brain. That was her opinion. You know what wet brain is? That's when your brain is so sponged full of alcohol, your brain never comes back to normal. I'm just telling you that in layman's terms. If you get wet brain, I believe you can't come back. You're gone. You can't come back to reality. She, in her opinion, thought I was on the verge of wet brain. She says to me, you're coming back to our outpatient class. I said, yes, I am. And she said, what makes you think that this time will be different? And I said, because this time I really want it. Really? This time I really want it. Really? Yeah. Did I really want it? I'll tell you about my second go-around with outpatient, and then I'll tell you what happens when you go into a 28-day rehab. My name is Bromo. This is There Is a Way Out. I sure appreciate you listening. I really do. For anyone who thinks that they've hit rock bottom or maybe they may have a problem, there is a way out.